To play Glinda for those 3 hours, you really do have to put your heart into it. When I was 13, I auditioned for Jason Robert Brown's musical called 13. I look back on those days and I'm like, I had no idea who I was and what I was doing when I got the audition request for Wicked. My heart stopped. I've waited my whole life for this email to come and show up.
Sparkles are flying. That is the most Glinda thing I've ever heard.
Yep.
Allie Trimm, welcome to Post Run High.
I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to be sitting down with you. We've talked about this a little bit off camera, but I have had Mary-Kate Morrissey, one of the former Elphabas on Wicked, on with me before. So to be able to sit down with the current Glinda on Broadway is just incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so glad that you got to interview MK. She's awesome.
Yeah, we get a little taste of the Elphaba world, and now we're going to enter into the world of Glinda.
Yeah.
And I just want to say congratulations on landing the lead role.
Thank you. It's so crazy. Like sometimes I wake up and I think, oh man, another day, like gotta get my voice ready, gotta get my body ready. And then sometimes I wake up and I'm like, wait a second, I have to like really stay present for this year because it's gonna go by like that. And you spend your whole life working towards one thing. And I just have to keep reminding myself to like actually enjoy it because it's a hard job and I care a lot about doing it well. So I'm trying to find the balance of.
Yeah, of course. It's like you're exhausted, but at the same time, it's this crazy, exciting period of your life and you have to enjoy every second of it.
Yeah.
We started this show with a walk. Yeah. Right before this, guys. You can go watch our walk on my Instagram and Allie's Instagram. The show is all about movement, physically, mentally, emotionally, and just with people on the pursuit of greatness, which you so are an example of that. But I want to start with movement physically because as Glinda on Broadway, you're moving a lot. The Gershwin Theater is one of the oldest theaters on Broadway. It's a raked stage. You guys are constantly running around. You've got to keep your voice right. You've got to physically have the stamina to be running and singing on stage. So like, what does movement look like in your life? How do you prioritize it off stage? And yeah, just walk us through that.
I kind of trained leading up to the show. I had a break between being with the show as the Glinda standby and then coming in full time. So in my time away, first of all, I didn't know if I would ever come back to the show. I did re-audition for the job. But once I found out I was going to be coming back, I kind of had like, okay, I've got 3 months to get some routine ready and to get my body and my voice ready. And I did that as best as I could. But then once you start the 8-show schedule, I felt like, oh gosh, this is where that routine really comes in handy and it's hard to maintain. But for me, a lot of my outside of the show life is very gentle and slow. Especially right now, I'm like 3 months into the contract and I've already had like 2 injuries. So it's definitely took, it's shaken up my body a little bit. Like you said, the stage is raked, which means it's at like a slight incline. And then you're in heels and then you're in these really heavy dresses and costumes and you're just running around for 2.5 hours or like a little more than that, sometimes twice a day. So it is just kind of like a full-on workout. It's a lot of cardio too. Your heart rate is up, the adrenaline is pumping. So I don't have a ton of steam left over on the beginning or the end to like really move my body, but I have to do something gentle. Otherwise, everything will just kind of like harden and seize up over time. So I'm still kind of figuring it out, honestly.
I mean, it totally makes sense. Also, I feel like the performance is enough of a workout. You don't need to be doing cardio outside of running around for 2 hours on stage and singing and dancing. And you guys literally train like professional athletes, I feel like.
Yeah, especially singing. I mean, that's been what my biggest focus has been on is my vocal health with the show because Glinda is kind of all over the vocal map. She's like opens the show in these super high, beautiful coloratura soprano notes and then pretty quickly shifts gears into a little bit more of a belty spoken singing range. And then by the end of the show, she's holding the alto notes. So she kind of covers the whole map. And to
She's got
have
range.
she's got range and she's got like a huge emotional arc. So she's got like to play Glinda for those 3 hours, you really do have to put your heart into it. Otherwise, it just looks and feels phony. And I have not figured out how to do a show where I don't really feel that I'm like in it. I've literally been given the advice to like find a way to do a show sustainably so that you can maintain, some ease and the audience can't tell the difference. But in my mind, I'm like, yes, they can. Like if I'm phoning it in at all or just marking it or like
Going through
the motions
Yeah.
at all, I just feel like everyone's going to see it. And so it doesn't work for me. I can't like figure it out. It's like all or nothing. And that's been another thing too, is I've been like, if I don't feel that I have the all, I just call out and rest because I assume, okay, my body probably needs to rest or something must be wrong if I don't have my all. So I don't even know. I don't know if that's the right way to go about it, but I care about the show so much and I care about the quality of the performance so much that I've noticed like if I don't think I can deliver exactly what I want, then I would rather let the standby who I was the standby for a long time just do a great show. So I'm learning a lot. Yeah, learning a lot about my what this means about my like perfectionism and what this means about being flexible as an artist. I don't know.
No, and I feel like that's so important. And that's why the standbys are there for you, right? To be able to pick up when you are having those off days. And like you're human, you're allowed to have those days. But for the most part, you are the one performing. And it is like a huge toll on you guys emotionally and mentally. And I love hearing about you saying that you have to get into character and really feel like you are Glinda during those 3 hours. I said 2 hours before running on stage. We have to call out it's 3. It's a long show.
It's a long show.
That extra hour is taxing. We're going to get into all things Wicked in a bit, but I want to start off this podcast also by just learning your full story because, guys, Allie is one of the most impressive people that I think I've ever sat down with.
Oh my gosh.
You and Mary Kate, I told you when we were walking, but I love so much getting to sit down with performers, especially Broadway stars. And I know you've done a lot of on-screen work too. Let's start with the early life of Allie. Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I grew up in this city called Escondido. It's north of San Diego, so Southern California. And I like started theater right away as a kid. I was always singing. And I think I always joke that my parents probably got tired of my loud, belting Annie in the shower. And they were like, let's put her in community theater. So I did start theater really, really young. And my life started out very normal. And then by the time I was 9, I was doing professional theater. So things did kind of take a turn young in life where I was suddenly like the one kid in, a real production with all adults. And I was learning harmonies, learning how to read music, learning how to do an 8-show-a-week schedule as a child. And that did shape my childhood a lot. Like, yeah, it just influenced the way that you think of free time or you think of what does fun mean to you when you're a kid.
Like it goes from being your hobby and
Your
your
job,
sport to
right.
being literally your identity and how you show up in the world in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I was like being pulled out of school to do these shows, or I was pulled out of school to drive to LA for auditions. So things just kind of like got kind of weird really quickly. And I loved it. I mean, I was like really enjoying it all. And then when I was 13 years old, I auditioned for Jason Robert Brown's musical called 13, and I got that job. So it was kind of my first big non-San Diego production that I did. And that was on Broadway in 2008. So I moved to New York. My family moved here. We didn't really know how long it would last or what it all meant, but it ended up being quite short. It was like a 3 or 4 month run. And then it closed and moved back to San Diego. So for those couple of years, it was kind of like in and out of being a professional performer and then like being in my public high school with my friends and kind of balancing identities, and trying to figure out who I am as a young person. I look back on those days and I'm like, man, I had no idea who I was and what I was doing. And I was just like winging it, you know?
I mean, those experiences shaped you so much. And I'm sure, as you said, like they taught you so much.
Yeah.
I love knowing how dedicated your parents were too. And, the way when you got the role on 13, for those 3 to 4 months, you guys moved to New York. Let's talk a little bit about the sacrifice that goes into it family wise. Like,
Yeah.
what did your family dynamic look like at that time? And like, how did you guys make it work?
Yeah, I mean, because I was so young, so much of it went over my head. And it wasn't that I was ungrateful. It just was that I like didn't know how rent was being paid, I didn't know what was going on. But my parents did sacrifice a lot. My parents and my two younger siblings, who at that time were like 5 and 9, um, we all moved to New York. And the show was short lived, but it's hard to move a family to New York for like 3 months. So we moved, and my siblings went into school here in the city, and I was doing homeschool because we were working full time, and you couldn't really be in school at the same time. And I remember my dad traveling because he still worked in San Diego. The following year, I did a show called Bye Bye Birdie on Broadway, and we did the same thing all over again. That time, my parents asked my siblings, "Do you guys want another New York adventure?" And they were like, "We're good. We'll just stay here." So it was a little bit different the second go around, which I kind of liked because I felt like at that point I was 15. And I was like sometimes alone in an apartment in New York. And I felt very adult and very self-sufficient. And again, I look back and I'm like, what? I didn't know what I was doing at all. But there was a lot of sacrifice that went into that. And beyond that, my parents, I wouldn't have been able to do any of the things that I did at that point in my career if not for the hours that my parents drove me to auditions, to rehearsals, to voice lessons that they paid for me. Like I had a lot of support and privilege that my parents could kind of see that I wanted to do this and then encourage it for me.
But it's so nice hearing that story and like hearing what goes into it, not only as you, an individual that's like doing these roles, training your voice, right? But it's also the support system is so important. And I feel like it's so good for people listening that want to get into theater or have kids that want to get into theater and they're trying to figure out, well, what do I need to be doing to set my daughter or son up for success here? Because they have that it factor and I want them to chase their dreams, and it's cool knowing that you're like, listen, like this is a team sport and
Yeah.
it's going to take an army, but it's worth it. Back in those years, like when you were a teenager and landing these massive roles, and I want to get to Bye Bye Birdie, what was your parents' like North Star for you? Like, what did they see you becoming? Do you think they knew, or did they just know like our daughter's really talented?
I don't know. I mean, I think that my parents had so much faith in my talent, sometimes delusionally so. Like my mom, I remember her being like there was this one time I had a bad audition. I just bombed it, and I had been doing readings of this show for years. I'd been part of the development, and I like really bombed the audition because I cared too much and I was too nervous. And I called my mom in tears, and she was like, "You should go back in there and say, 'Do you know who I am?'" And I was like, "Mom, I'm literally not gonna do that. Like that's crazy." So all that to say, they had a lot of faith in me. They believed that I am like magnificent, I think. And then the flip side of that is that there were a lot of times for me where I was like, what if I don't want to do this as a career? Like, what if I don't succeed at this? What if I'm not as magnificent as you think I am? Like, there was kind of a teeter totter or like a shadow side or something to that dynamic. Yeah, I think that like to people who want to help their kids and to kids who think like, oh, I don't have the financial support that I need to do this, there are many, many ways to succeed. And it doesn't have to look like the way that my experience looked like. This was just like one version of success. if you could even necessarily qualify it as that. Like, I also struggled a lot coming off of these big shows, trying to figure out, what if I never reach that height again and I peaked at 13? I had these like real fears as a young developing mind of what this could mean for my identity. And I think looking back, like, I needed someone or something to be like, that would be fine. That would be completely fine if you never did anything again. Like, you'll find your way. And instead, it was this like very positive and supportive, like, oh, you're gonna be something. So I think it's interesting. It sometimes felt like support. It sometimes felt like pressure. I think everyone is always just trying to like do the right thing. I think everyone can have good intentions. And when you're dealing with child actors, it gets real dicey real quick. Just because you are a child, you are not an adult yet. You don't have the mind and the tools of an adult. And you're being given these massive adult responsibilities. So it's an interesting time of life to look back on.
Everything you just explained, I think it's so important to say because it's the truth, and oh gosh, I can't even imagine like what that type of pressure looked like, especially like because you want something so bad and then you're like putting this pressure on yourself, and it is hard to land these roles, but you just kept going. And I think again, like the ethos of this show is movement and talking to people that have had so much success when you just keep on going, and you put your head down and you do the work, and you also explore some other things sometimes. And I know you did. If you guys are enjoying this episode, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps more people discover these conversations, and it helps us continue bringing on amazing guests. Let's talk about when you're in your teens and even before teens, middle school. What does training look like to become a Broadway star?
For me, I was taking a lot of voice lessons from a lot of different teachers. And like I was saying earlier, I think that's really important because some teachers know some things. I don't think there's any one teacher that knows everything. And even if they magically did, they wouldn't be able to communicate it to everyone because everyone, kind of speaks your own language. And so I studied with a lot of different teachers. I would do different like acting workshops in the San Diego region, but I also just did a lot of theater. I did a lot of shows. I was always auditioning. I was always, whether it was like a school show or like a community theater show or a professional show, to me, it didn't really make much of a difference. It was very fun either way. I did take dance lessons, but I wasn't like the most elegant dancer. So I didn't totally stick with that one. And sometimes I kick myself because I think like, I would have really benefited from having that training a little bit stronger now. But never too late to start again, I guess.
She's still dancing, guys. Don't worry. You're still a good dancer. That's so funny, though. No, I'm always so jealous of the girls that danced growing up. I'm like, if I could break it down like that at a bar, I'd be so much more fun.
I know. And I just thought like, man, to have like a knowledge of your body in that way, I just never.
My goal right now is to learn how to shag.
Oh my God.
I just want to learn so badly. I have this like friend who's like kind of a mentor to me, and she has privately been taking up ballroom dancing and literally competing.
Wow.
And I know. And I'm like, wait, this is the coolest hobby ever.
That's a really cool hobby. And to be good at it and competing.
Yeah. And I'm like, cool. I literally was saying to her, I was like, what's the best part? And she's like, Kate, it's like literally going to events or the bar with our friends at the Jersey Shore and being able to shag and look great while dancing. Like she loves it.
That is so cool. Have you ever seen those videos of people who are improv dancing?
No.
There's like a big group of people. It's got to be these events, and they get paired up, and then a random song comes on. They don't know what the song is going to be, and then they improvise partner dancing in front of a whole crowd, and they look incredible. My whole For You page is like,
I need that For You page. I am obsessed with anything improv. I went to this show in LA for the Netflix is a Joke festival that they do every year, and it was Seth Rogen Smokes a Bowl, and it was the coolest event I've ever been to in my life. It was Seth Rogen hosting it, and he brought on incredible singers. He brought on Snoop Dogg, Post Malone, Lil Dicky. I'm like sitting there being like, these are my favorite artists ever.
Wow.
And to see Snoop Dogg perform is like a whole nother thing. But even though like Snoop Dogg performed and Post Malone, which were incredible, my favorite performance was he brought on 4 iconic Netflix actors. And basically they were all smoking a J. Every time he said take a hit, they would take a hit of the J. And at the same time, they were doing improv on stage.
Oh.
And Allie, it was like the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, I need to learn, I need to take improv classes.
I don't know how people do this. I would like completely panic.
No, I feel like you'd be good.
Oof, I don't know. I'm good with a script. You give me a script, I can say the lines, but.
Well, we're going to get to Wicked in a little bit, but has there ever been a moment on stage in a Wicked performance where something happens with you and your stage mates and you guys have to improv?
Pretty often. I mean, it doesn't ever come across like we're full on improvising scenes, at least not that I've had happen yet, but it does happen because like the beauty of live theater is that things just go wrong. Anytime something can go wrong. I've heard stories of like, I heard a story where, there was a Fiero who missed one entrance, and the entrance is kind of pivotal to the plot because it inspires Glinda to like go on this journey of changing her name and her identity to impress him. But he wasn't there to impress. And that was a story where I heard where people just had to kind of like improv until, okay, is he coming? Nope, he's not here yet. Nope. Okay, I guess I'm gonna change my name. So stuff happens. Just last week, there was a last minute, someone had to call out for an emergency. So we had to stop the show. We had to hold for like 10 minutes. And then when we finally went back into it, it was like me alone on the stage when the curtain came up and then just like diving back into the show. So things do happen, but everyone is so professional for the most part at like easing into it that you might not even notice that anything happens.
Well, that's because you guys are so good at improv.
People are good. I don't know about me, but
no, but it is so impressive. And I think you're right. Like that is the beauty of a live show is every show is different.
Yeah.
Even though you're showing up consistent and like being your Glinda, every night it's different. And I feel like that's the coolest part about live theater.
It is really fun. And like, I really thought that maybe going into the full-time job, it would get monotonous or I would get tired of doing the same thing every night, but I don't feel that way at all. It consistently feels like exciting and fresh. And I have not found that to be part of the struggle of doing the show. So that's been a really pleasant surprise.
What was the transition like going from San Diego theater to now you're on Broadway in New York City?
Just getting to New York was a culture shock. I was kind of sheltered growing up and I just didn't really know that much about anything. And so getting to New York and just seeing such diverse people and such a different hustle bustle on the streets, it was, exciting change for me. And I fell in love with it right away. Like I've been in New York as an adult now for all of my 20s and I love it here so much. But in terms of actually the theater, I didn't feel that it was so different, but I think that's because I was too young to know how important Broadway was. And I don't mean that in like, I don't want that to sound offensive.
No,
but
before your brain fully develops, you don't realize certain things.
Exactly. I just didn't know how big of a deal it was. On some level I did, because on some level I was very stressed about like it all going well. But I didn't know. I thought I was just excited. I thought, I'm just excited to be here. I was like actually panicked subconsciously.
Yeah. You're like, wait.
I was just happy, So it was still to me like an audience is an audience, a show is a show, a cast is a cast. It didn't change so much the scenery or the city that I was in. And in principle, I still think that. I still think that to this day. I think that sometimes the quality that you see on Broadway is no different than the quality you'd see anywhere else.
I love theater and I love live performances. And I remember seeing Wicked for the first time and coming out of it and being like, that was incredible.
Yeah.
But the first Broadway show I ever saw was The Lion King, and then it
Oh.
was Mamma Mia with my mom. But it's so true that like even when I'm in Connecticut, my parents live in this small town, and there's a little theater nearby, and they're always doing these small plays, and really with no set at all. It's just like the
Yeah.
people on the stage and maybe like one or two props, and they're hour and a half long performances, and it's incredible.
Sometimes those intimate theater performances are like more impactful for the audience because you feel that you're in it. Not to say that Wicked doesn't also transport you to this world and you can feel like you're in it, but there's something really special about really like seeing a stripped down, performance where people can't really hide behind the costume. You can't hide behind the glitz of everything. It's just like, this is what I have to offer. And there's something super special about those types of shows.
What is it about theater that you love so much?
There's a lot that I love about theater, but there is this kind of presence, like this energy where the full company is coming together with the same shared goal of telling the story you've all decided to tell. And you're not on your phones, you're not distracted, you're right there with one another. And so even as a child, I loved theater so much because of the camaraderie, the community aspect of it. And then you layer in like really high skill artistry and seeing people show up really putting their best foot forward. It's unbeatable. It's like you can't match that in any other medium of art. It's like quite vulnerable too, because like we were saying, it's live theater, every day is different. But when people show up and there's this just unspoken agreement that I'm going to give you my absolute best. I hope it's good enough. And you're going to give me your absolute best. And we're going to like celebrate and tell this story. And hopefully people will resonate. It's just really like almost spiritual. It's like almost, it's as present as I have found that I can really get in my life, especially when it comes to art. But it's like an unbeatable energy.
You see kids coming in dressed up in their Glinda outfits,
Oh
like
my
their
gosh.
Elphaba outfits. What's the guy's name? Fari?
Fiero.
I'm sure some of the little
Ferrari.
boys are in their Ferrari outfits. But like you see people dressed up every day and whatever the show is, and I like so many, whether it's a small theater or a big production like Broadway, I feel like it's spiritual in a sense too, because there's so many people in that room, especially young people, literally that can pinpoint their experience seeing a Broadway show and being like, that is what I want to do when I grow up. And I just think that's so cool too, because you're inspiring the next generation of
Aw.
performers.
Thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. And I also resonate with that because, and I've maybe mentioned this earlier, but the first time I saw Wicked on tour, I was 11 years old. I was just so blown away by like the spectacle of the show and just the material, the songs, the performances, the characters. And I waited at the stage door. I got a photo with Kendra Cassabaum, who was playing Glinda at the time. And I just was like, just so in awe. And then the following year, my parents took me to see it again. And I made a t-shirt with the printed picture of me and Kendra on it. I bedazzled it myself. I handmade a collage that I put on the back of the shirt of all of the Wicked press photos that were findable at that time. And I stage doored again, and it was still Kendra. And for whatever reason, she didn't come out to the stage door that day, but I like refused to let my parents leave. So we waited for hours. Not very cool necessarily to do, but I did. I was 12. And finally, an ensemble member came back and said, "Oh my gosh, are you still waiting?" And I said, "Yeah, for Kendra, look at my shirt." And she went and grabbed Kendra, who came out, probably at the end of a very long week, maybe at the end of their stop in that city. And she was like, "I didn't know you were still here. Let me make it up to you. Let me bring you backstage." And so she took me and my friend backstage and she Galindified us. And she put glitter on our eyes and she let us look at the costumes up close. And that for me was like, I will never forget that experience because it was so generous of her time to invite me into what felt so special. I felt like this is so special that I get to see this. And when I first joined Wicked as the Glinda standby, it was still kind of, people were still masked. We had a lot of strict COVID rules to keep people healthy, so you couldn't bring people backstage. But I started making these little barrettes, these little like flower Glinda barrettes, so that I could Glindify kids at the stage door and kind of like have my own attempt at giving some semblance of what I felt Kendrick gave to me back in the day. And it is definitely a pretty magical experience to see kids, you know, I see myself, I just look at them and I'm like, that was me, you know, and this could be you in a couple years, you know. It's really beautiful. It's special.
That story gave me chills. I'm like, literally, like sparkles are flying.
I know. I know.
Also, the fact that you bedazzled the shirt is very Glinda.
Yeah, pink and green rhinestones. It was like, it was cute. It was a cute shirt.
Like, that is the most Glinda thing I've ever heard. Did you hear that?
Heard, yep.
You end up for a little bit going to Stanford, and then you dabbled in on-screen performances, took a break from Stanford, came back. Guys, 2023, you did graduate from Stanford. That is so incredible.
Almost
Wait, you
graduated.
didn't? Okay.
I did go back. I did go back to school because during COVID, everything went online, and I was like, oh, what a perfect opportunity to continue my education. But technically, I still have 1 year left. Technically, I'm a rising senior forever.
Oh my God. Okay. Also, Stanford, hello, academics. Should we talk about Bye Bye Birdie first?
I mean, it was an incredible experience. I got to work with John Stamos, who was very kind to all of us as kids. But the best part of the Bye Bye Birdie story is that Danny Quadrino was in it, and he was the understudy for Hugo. So we became good friends, and he's now playing Bach in Wicked with me now.
Your whole life is like a full circle moment.
Yeah, I literally feel that way. Like, I'm like, I can't stress my way through this year. I have to enjoy this because there's too much of the universe has conspired to bring me to this moment. And I have to just enjoy it and like laugh at how beautifully things have timed out. But yeah, Danny Quadrino and I became good friends. There were other people from both 13 and Bye Bye Birdie that have either been in Wicked or you know, everyone's kind of continued their careers in one way or another.
That's my favorite thing when I talk to performers, is finding out like how many shows they've done, like what people have been a part of. Like, it's just cool knowing that you guys are this small community, really, of performers. Like, I'm sure a lot of people know each other. It's like living in a small town.
And I feel like all of the people, at least in like the 2008 era of child actors on Broadway, we all know each other. It was such a small world. And so it's very sweet to like watch people go through their lives. A lot of folks that I know have left the industry altogether and now have like thriving lives in completely other, you know, genres of work. And some people are still auditioning, some people are still working. It's just very cool to know that we all kind of started from this very bizarre little tiny bubble of Broadway kids. Weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like there's some synergy too between a lot of like child Broadway stars go on, like when I think of Ariana Grande, like they go on, they start on Broadway, and then they end up also like taking on all these different roles within the industry, whether it's on screen or singing. I interviewed this guy Mackz too. Capital Max.
And he's from 13.
Yes,
he also did 13.
Wait, were you on 13 with Ariana?
Yes.
I am uncovering so much right now. Okay, wait, I don't know why I didn't put that together. But yes, the show that he was on with Ariana, it was you, it was Mackz, Ariana, you, who else?
Liz Gillies, who has
I'm interviewing her on Wednesday next week.
There you go. Hi, Liz.
Hey, Liz.
She was in it. Graham Phillips, Al Calderon, who's a music artist, Bryn Williams, who is now teaching and directing a lot of theater, but has had a massive Broadway career. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of crazy talented kids that have come from that show.
The fact that you and Ariana Grande both came out of 13 and are Glindas isn't
that crazy?
Sparks are flying.
I know.
You played Kim on Bye Bye Birdie, and that's a really like vocally mature role, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's also kind of like look, again, I was too young to really know what was going on.
Because you were 16 when you got that?
I turned 16 towards the end of the run or somewhere in there.
So 15 years old, lead role on Bye Bye Birdie.
Just coming off of 13. And I alongside like celebrities, you know, like big names in that show. And I hadn't really developed my soprano voice yet. In 13, it was like all big belty kind of stuff. And it was pre-puberty. Like your voice as a child is different than your voice as a teenager. And then, yeah, Bye Bye Birdie was a little bit more in the soprano kind of realm. And I remember...
Wait, what does that sound like?
You know, to go from a mid-range big belt to, well, what's the one boy, one special boy? That's too high, but it's like, you know, prettier and more towards Glinda, more towards
that is in the same kind of
Glinda genre of singing. But yeah, I was like too young to really know how to do that with my voice yet. It was all instinct. It was all instinct at that age. I was just singing it and winging it and hoping that it worked out.
Well, it did work out. And then at what point did you say, I want to go to Stanford? And also like such an incredibly academic school. So it's just insane knowing that all while you were on Broadway, child star, massive roles, but Miss Academics over here is getting into Stanford, not for theater, for psychology, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I took a gap year before I went to Stanford. I was very excited, of course, to get into that school and to go study there. But I wanted to like try TV and film first. So I lived in LA for a year, but I was like 17 and it just like, I had a year of like doing acting. And then I thought, okay, that's good enough. I'm going to do school. And for all of high school, it was like both at the same time. So it was important for me at that time to like really put it all in one basket and just commit to acting and then just commit to education. But that's also why I didn't last 4 years at Stanford, because I was like, 1 year was enough. I want to go back to singing.
I can't even imagine balancing the two. Like, it's just way too much work.
Yeah, it was so much to juggle. And you can't really put your best foot forward when you have that much that you're trying to succeed in at once, at least for me. So I did enjoy my time at Stanford. And I wanted to study psychology because I really wanted to understand more about what I went through as a teenager. Honestly, I was like, these experiences did something to my brain. I got to figure it out. So that was why I was initially interested in studying psychology. I also thought like, oh, this parallels with acting very intuitively to understand how people think and how people operate and behave is like the whole point of acting or like the whole skill of acting. So I was at Stanford, but I really quickly was like, I feel like I'm missing out on my career. I feel like if I'm going to pursue theater and acting, it has to be now or I'm going to lose all of the momentum that I built as a young person and I'm going to have to start over from scratch. So I dropped out, indefinite leave of absence, so they say, and I moved to New York. But I did sort of have to start over because now I was like 19 or 20. I'm no longer auditioning for teenage roles, or I'm like, I am, but I'm a little too old for them, but I'm a little too young for the adult leads. So I did have to figure it out the way that most people coming to New York are going to have to figure it out. Like, of course, I had these experiences to bolster my resume or to give me some understanding of how the industry works. So not to discount that, but I did have to reintroduce myself and rediscover myself as an artist. There's even like, you have to relearn how to sing once you go through, once you get into your 20s. You have to relearn how to carry yourself. You have a new body, you have a new voice. So there was a lot of relearning that I did in my early New York years.
Of course, yeah. I mean, when I think of relearning too, I think of Justin Bieber and him going for them from that like childhood voice to his voice now.
Yeah,
and he did it beautifully. And but it is such a thing you have to relearn. For parents out there that have kids that are doing what you were doing, right? Like our childhood actors, stars, performers, what should they be thinking about in terms of making sure like their kids are staying mentally strong, because like just hearing that you struggled with it, like let's unpack that a little bit.
This is also why I wanted to study psychology. Like I'm so passionate about mental health for people, mental health for young artists. I think that if you're a parent with a child who wants to do this, you have to decide what you want your role as parent to be. Do you want to be the parent, or do you want to be the manager? Do you want to be the agent of your kid and get them success no matter what? Or do you want to be the parent that is the shoulder to cry on when things are tough? Because the industry is tough no matter what. I mean, you could be the most talented person to walk the earth, and you're gonna struggle at some point. Something is not gonna align, and you're gonna be like, but I was perfect for that and I nailed it, and it's just not gonna go your way. And so if you as the parent are approaching your child with the priority of, I want you to be successful because then you'll be happy, and then you'll be, the reverse is, I want you as my child to be happy so that you can feel successful in however things pan out. I think it's just a distinction of perspective and what role does the parent play. I also think that for the people pursuing the industry, you have to have some perspective of who you are as well. If you wrap your whole identity up in your work, like in any industry, we know across the board that that's not healthy. Like, you wouldn't look at someone who is like spending 80 hours a week grinding at their job and think like that's a healthy person, or that person is probably thriving in their life. They might be making a lot of money, they might have some version of success, and maybe they are really happy with that, but it isn't necessarily the way to succeed.
And that's why I like talking about the fact that you were interested in going to Stanford and studying psychology and doing something outside of acting, because people have lives outside of this one thing, right? And I think for you, like when you were in high school and even now, like what do you love to do outside of performing and acting? Like what is Allie like?
Oh my gosh.
Off stage, off camera.
There are so many things that I like. I like to eat good food. I like to enjoy the landscape of New York. I like to go bouldering and rock climbing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like picked it up as a hobby in 2020, 2021, and just like fell in love with it. And that was probably actually the first time that I realized, oh yeah, this is what a hobby is. It's where you do something for fun with no intent to impress anybody or make any money.
Mm-hmm.
That is the point of a hobby. And like, I didn't know. So now I've like taken myself on some trips around the world to do some outdoor climbing. I'm by no means great at it, but I love it.
That is so cool.
It's so cool.
Glinda goes to the mountains.
Yeah, like I don't need a bubble to get up there, I'll climb myself.
Okay, I'm obsessed with that. You need hobbies literally outside your day. Even me, like when my hobby used to be running because I was working in advertising, and I've had to figure out like now running has become like a part of my job. But at the same time, it's like, I still love running. It still is a hobby for me to go on solo runs by myself, right? And I love it. But I have had to be like, okay, like I need to figure out a couple other things. And I started like loving to read biographies and just like learn about people. It's actually been really fun.
That.
Yeah. And I was never really a reader. And recently I'm leaning into memoirs and biographies and just like having those chill moments. And it's necessary because I need to have things where, like rock climbing, where it's literally like, you cannot be on your phone.
Yeah, you really can. You really can with that one. Yeah. When I first started at Wicked, I really quickly realized, okay, I care about this way too much. I have to remember that I can care about other things too, or else I'm going to lose my mind. And I rescued a dog, and I now have the most angelic, perfect little rescue dog. His name is Kip. And that was like you can't call a dog a hobby, but it was something. Yeah.
Going to the dog park is a hobby.
Kip is my hobby. I love him. Oh. And it was just like something where I was like, I need to shift my perspective and remember that not everything, if my voice sounds, less than ideal on a show, or like something goes wrong, it can't be the thing that matters most to me, because then I'm just setting myself up for like the type of vulnerability that is a little difficult to bounce back from. And if I just can keep some perspective that like the world is bigger than this one performance, then probably all of the performances will be better because I'll be less stressed and I'll have more fun. And everybody wants to watch people having fun. No one wants to watch someone like thinking about how they're singing as they're singing it.
I just have to say, like, your performances are pretty perfect. And I think like just having those, like even just having this conversation with you, and I think people are going to be so excited to hear that like you're human, stuff happens. You're not going to come off stage every night and be like, that was the best I've ever did. But it makes those moments where you do come off stage and you're like, damn, that was a pretty good performance. Even better, right? Because like if we were perfect all the time, like life would be so boring.
Just the other day, there's this one note that Glinda sings that's like quite low. And usually I can hit it. And this one show, oh my gosh, it just was like it just didn't come out right. And I mentioned it to one of my cast mates and I was like, I really kind of like messed that up, huh? And she goes, oh yeah, but a little imperfection suits everybody. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, fair. We have to talk about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because that was, oh my God. Like when I think of my favorite shows, I think of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I think of, what was that advertising show? Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Like I love that era.
Oh my gosh.
The way it's produced is perfect. And you played Daisy, right?
Yeah, I had a very small role. This was like
season 5.
One day. Yes, it was in their final season. It was like a one day of shooting. But you have to put something like that on your resume because it's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I mean, it was very cool. The day of filming that I was there, I got to meet Rachel Brosnahan. I got to kind of like have like a very brief interaction with her. It was cool to see how they built like the costumes and the sets that day. It was so many extras in the scene as well. So to have everybody come and like within an hour and a half just be like dolled up to the 50s, it was spectacular.
I mean, yeah, literally like dolled up to the 50s, like in the truest form. The costume design on that and the set design on that show is incredible. The production is everything's just like so good. I'm obsessed when producers and directors and the costume, like when everything just comes together so beautifully. I'm like, oh, like my creative mind.
They ran a tight ship there too. Like it all has to be word perfect for Miss Maisel. Not every like set or every production company is like very strict about being word perfect. When I was a kid, I filmed a scene in a 30 Rock episode with Tina Fey and John Hamm, speaking of Mad Men.
Iconic.
And they were just riffing off of each other the whole time. They asked me to ad-lib and I took the ad-libs too far. They were like, actually, we're going to have you go back to the script. I took it a little too far off script, but they were just riffing and improving. But at Miss Maisel, it was like, if you drop the word the and you kind of just like say, they will give you a line note and they're like, you have to say the word the. So it's a tight ship there.
I wonder if that's because they're trying to so match also the way they spoke in that era. Is that
totally?
Yeah.
And it's to give it a consistent tone, like it's also the same creators of Gilmore Girls, I think. And so it's a very specific tone where there's like this patter of speech that you can recognize, oh, that is like the style of the show. And you have to, even for people who are, listening and acting, you can look at the other work that these producers have created and understand when you're auditioning for a piece, like for Miss Maisel, this is the style of speech they're going to look for. This is the word perfect expectation they're going to have. And then that can also kind of help you for success when you're trying to audition for something like that.
Yeah, I definitely. And it's interesting too. I feel like certain castings probably want word perfect and some are like, we want you to be able to ad-lib a little bit. When you say Tina Fey, I immediately think of Amy Poehler.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like the two of them were always together. Isn't that right? Am I thinking of the right person?
And they just like, it's magic watching artists that speak the same language be able to just bring the best out in each other.
I'm obsessed right now with Amy Poehler's podcast. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen little clips on TikTok.
That's what I've been seeing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I've seen clips on TikTok, her and Dakota Johnson.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, this is so freaking funny.
I saw the clip of that with Amy Poehler being like, how do you rev yourself up for a sex scene? Yeah. And Dakota was like, I don't need to rev myself up for I'm always revved. What do you mean?
Dakota's like comedic timing is
so funny.
She is so funny. She's so funny.
And gorgeous.
Yeah. Just gorgeous. What was it like going from on stage performances in your teens to then on screen?
Totally different fields, almost different industries. Like it's totally different skill sets. I have a lot more experience in theater. I have a lot more experience knowing how to like carry myself on a stage. But when you're carrying yourself for a screen, it's just a different set of skills. So anytime that I've been on a like a set for something on camera, I feel very much like a small fish in a big pond, like soaking in the expertise around me. I feel like, at least in theater, I like feel confident in my skills. I know what I'm bringing to the table, but maybe someday I'll have enough experience to feel a little bit more like I know what I'm doing
I feel like
on
you
a
will.
set. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. And not to say that I've been like totally panicked in the past, but it's just a new environment and things run a little differently. What I will say is I did an indie film once, and we had like a few months in a small town in the Midwest, and that felt different than TV, even like making a film where you're with the same people for a long period of time, building the same story, sitting with the same characters. That's one thing. And it's closer to something like a long running show like Wicked, where you're doing the same story, the same character, same company. But then when you have these one off days of filming here and there, it's a little bit like, okay, you don't know anybody necessarily. So it's just a little bit like you're thrown in, you deliver, and you leave. And then that's like the whole skill is just being able to show up and be on right away. There's no ease into it. So just different skills.
I was talking to someone that is doing theater right now, Elia Scott. She was an actress in Sex Lives of College Girls. Now she's producing, I think she's producing / directing this play, but I don't even know if it's running anymore, but it was like a short stint of a play off Broadway in New York. And I was asking her, like, what was it like going from on screen to now being back on stage performing? And she was like, well, what I love about on stage performing is that you don't have to redo the takes.
It is what it is. There's so much freedom in that. There's pressure in that, but it's so freeing. It's like,
yeah. And there's rehearsals involved for you to get it right. But yeah, that was one of the things that she said. And I found it really interesting.
That's been something actually that I think about lately, because like the culture of bootlegs is crazier than it's ever been, I think.
What do you mean by bootlegs?
Like when people film live theater and then they post it online. Illegal.
Oh,
helpful for people who don't have access, fun. But also,
got it.
When I come down in the bubble, like I can look out and see immediately like the 12 reflective screens glaring back. And I know, okay, whatever I do right now, yeah, it's the one live take, but like it's going to live online forever. So that's an interesting new thing in the theater world that I don't know, like I'm still figuring out exactly how I feel about it, because I do watch them. I do watch them when they come up on TikTok. I say, oh, Jen Samard in Death Becomes Her. Let me watch that.
Yeah, but that I would have mixed feelings about it too, because it does come with this added pressure of being like, oh wait, I thought this was going to be an intimate performance, and now we're filming for TikTok.
Yeah,
and YouTube.
Yeah, and then it even makes me think like, if I were okay, this is like kind of a digression. If I were performing on a big Broadway stage, there's 2,000 seats. You have a certain thing that you do to like tell the story. But then I see these TikToks come out and it's like zoomed in, like right here. And so whatever the actor, whether it's me or someone else, is doing to read to the 200th row, you're getting right here. So then it's creating I don't know if I'm right about this. This is just my hunch. It's creating this like thing in acting on stage where you're both simultaneously acting for the full audience, but you're also sort of acting for a close-up. I don't know if this is true. I'm curious what other people think, if anyone else has noticed this. But how do you do both? And I guess the answer is you just be honest and you just tell the story, but I don't know.
It's different. So this is a different perspective, but when I'm filming my running interview show, selfie style, it's very different. Remember you even asked me, like the camera's in front of us as well, right? Sometimes we have Jeremy come and he films.
Yes.
And I want to start filming the show more consistently horizontal so that we can get the episodes up on YouTube.
Right.
But it is so different interviewing like this style where the cameras are, hey guys, the cameras are out there, versus like me holding it. It's like a different cadence of conversation. And the close-up is very different than the far away. And it's like, you can't
really do
optimize
both at the same. Yeah, you can't optimize both at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's just a different vibe.
I haven't talked to anyone about my thoughts on bootleg acting. So I kind of want to like survey the crowd and see what people think, if that's a real thing or not. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. But also like having reflecting phones in your face when you're performing. It's distracting.
It's so distracting.
Put your phones away, guys. You're in this dream role right now as Glinda on Broadway, but I love knowing that you also love on-screen acting. So do you see yourself in the future getting back into that?
I feel like I'm at a point in my life where whatever I do after Glinda, I've only planned this far. Like Glinda was my dream job and now I'm doing it. And I haven't really thought about what comes next. So maybe there's some screen acting, maybe there's more theater, maybe there's like marriage and family. Like I really don't know what my next steps are going to be after this show.
Well, if you could pick a dream series to be a part of, and this is just to like get a sense of your personality.
Oh my gosh.
What would you love to be in?
Like put me on Glee. Put me in Glee. Let me sing, let me be ridiculous, and let me be dramatic. But at the same time, I just know that would like come back to bite me, you know? Like it's come back to bite Mr. Schuster, but it's okay. I think it would be fun to be in a long running musical sitcom. How fun would that be?
Mm-hmm. It'd be fun to see you in it. Also, it'd be so fun to see like, what type of theater kid are you?
On the flip side though, I actually really like scary things. And it would be really fun to do like horror films because I love watching them. I love like thinking about what they're going through as the actors creating scary films. I think that would also be very fun to do something in like the, a little spooky. Little Scorpio spooky show.
Are you Scorpio?
I'm a Scorpio, yeah. I'm Scorpio stellium.
Okay, I'm Cancer. And Scorpio and Cancers are very compatible.
Yeah.
My fiance's Scorpio.
Oh, yeah. What's his birthday?
November 6th. When's yours?
October 27th.
Ah, so you're very close to Halloween.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. So I've got that spooky energy, you know? I've got that witchy energy.
Yeah. Okay, it's like perfect that you're in Wicked.
Yeah.
So 2021 to 2024, you were standby as Glinda on Broadway. Let's talk about auditioning, how you got that part, and paint the picture of what it looks like to be a standby.
Okay, so I first auditioned for Wicked. I was out of town filming a Hallmark Christmas movie. And funny enough, the character that I was playing in this Hallmark movie was kind of Glinda-esque, like kind of bubbly, kind of cheery.
What's the Hallmark movie so we can watch it?
Oh my gosh, it's called Next Stop Christmas.
Okay. Are you the main character in it?
No, I have like a couple of small scenes.
Okay, cute.
But it was super fun to do. We filmed it in like the heat of August or September. But anyway, I was out of town filming that when I got the audition request for Wicked. And I literally, like my heart stopped. I thought, oh, the chance is here. I've waited my whole life for this email to come and show up, and it is here. And I have only a suitcase of like sweats with me. So I threw together what I could for a self-tape, and I submitted it. And my manager was like, you sound great, you look great, but you have to just refilm it and you have to wear pink and curl your hair. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, don't people have an imagination? Yeah. The quality is there. And they were like, no, just trust us. And so I did. I said, okay. I went and like rent the runway a bunch of pink dresses and I refilmed it and sent it in and immediately got an in-person callback, which I was thrilled about that. Like the whole story could have ended there and I would have still been like, I did that. Like I touched Wicked in some way. Yeah. And so I had an in-person callback a few weeks later and I went in, and the music director of Wicked, his name is Dan Michike, he looked at my resume and he recognized 13. So this is one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't be where I am without the things that I did as a child. Anyway, he saw 13 and he was like, wait, which one were you? And I was like, in Glinda character, I was like, I was the main one, you know, just kind of being kind of a diva. And he said, well, prove it, sing. And the piano player started playing one of the main songs that I sung in 13 that I haven't sung in 10 years. And I said, if I'm going to sing this song, I'm singing it as Glinda. And I just went into this performance of what it means to be a friend, but as Glinda. And it got a chuckle out of the room. It got a chuckle out of me. The energy was really good. And I left thinking something is going to come from this. And I had one more follow-up callback with our associate director, and they film it so that they can send it to like the whole team of everybody. And that audition, I went in, I did like one song, and they were like, "That's all, thanks." And I was like, uh-oh, like maybe this is the end of the road. But it was right after my 27th birthday on the 27th that I got the call that I would be joining the company. And I had like a golden birthday theme, and I was kind of manifesting like, what do I want for this year of my life? And to get that as the start of that year was just the hugest gift. And I had like 2 weeks of rehearsal. A lot of people were still, we were like not really out of the clear. We were not really in the clear with COVID yet. So there were a lot of restrictions around who could come into the building, how we could rehearse. People were out sick a lot. So it was a little bit of a stressful time. And I walked in on this kind of like resurgence, bringing Broadway back from a very dark time for theater. And I had a very limited rehearsal. I had one put in, and then I made my debut the following week on Christmas Day of 2021.
Wow.
So that was like crazy Christmas to remember. And I loved being a standby. I just would have stayed there forever. I loved the job so much. I loved the ability to pop in and do the show here and then with the knowledge that I could rest and recover afterwards. So like, it always felt manageable, doable. It felt like I could really give it my all and then rest. And then the challenge with doing it full time, of course, is that you have to figure out how to maintain that level of performance. And the challenge with the standby position is that you never know when you're going to go on. So you have to be ready, but you don't really always have any notice. So there are pros and cons of each job type, I guess, but I really loved being a standby.
I also feel like being a standby before you are like the lead is kind of a great experience because you learn the role and you figure out like, what is the Glinda that I want to be? Do you feel like having had that experience, it's now helped you so much as the lead?
100%. It's also been incredibly helpful to watch so many other Glindas come in and see them go through the process, see how they find their own voice in it, how they find their body in it, see how they navigate the challenges of the job over the course of their year. I've just learned so much from watching these pros come in and like kind of pave the way. And I also have learned a lot from being able to do the show with so many different Elphabas. So in my time as standby, I've done the show with at least 7 different women playing Elphaba. And you learn a lot just from having that different scene partner, the different, even different ensemble members, different wizard, different Madame Morrible. It brings out different things in the material that you might not have ever noticed before. So now being in the show full time, I've had so many years to sit with the material and like really discover all of these little baby nuances that that it took me, a couple years to even think, oh, what if I did this here? Or like, what if, I never even thought about that line being said like that before, but that just happened organically. And it's a huge gift that I had that time to prepare.
And now it's like, the show like the back of your hand.
Totally. Yeah. I used to like wake up in a cold sweat. I would like run the show in my dreams, like just in case. And now I feel like I could play any role. I might not do it well, but I could probably spit those lines out.
What is your favorite song to perform in the musical?
It switches depending on like the day, depending on how my voice is feeling. I will never get tired of singing the opening number, No One Mourns the Wicked. It's just like a very beautiful, without spoiling anything in case people don't somehow know how Wicked ends. Glinda's arc starts and ends with this song. And so she is kind of like going through a whole myriad of emotions, all covered by this like presentational, like diplomatic, front. And it happens to be sitting in this huge soaring soprano that like when you have those top of the show nerves, it just like comes out. It's just so much fun to sing up there. And I will never get tired of it. And it's like you're in the bubble in this massive dress, sparkling. It's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, no, I feel like outside of like the actual performance, I would geek out over the costumes.
The costumes are incredible. Okay, that's the other great thing about being in the full-time position now is that I've had all of the costumes made just for me. So when you're a standby, in its own cool way, you're wearing different mixed and matched pieces from other Glinda's costumes from the past. And that's fun because you're like, oh, wow, I'm wearing like Kendra Casabaum's corset and she was the first Glinda I ever saw. Very cool. But then to be able to like have these custom dresses fit and made for you with your name stitched in, it feels so special. And like, it's like kind of just, I don't know, it just feels like this girly little special thing.
You're living out your princess like fairy tale.
Totally.
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
And what's different about your Glinda dresses that like we haven't seen before?
They're all handmade, and I also have a brand new crown. That's probably the most different of my costumes, is that I have a brand new bubble crown, which is the blue crown that Glinda wears at the top of the show. And so no one has ever worn it. Only me.
No, the costume thing is one of the coolest things. And I remember like when Mary-Kate Morrissey and I, when we first did Who was Glinda in 2024. Sorry, Elphaba. Hello.
Yes, yeah.
She was Elphaba in 2024. And her and I, like 2 years ago, when I was kind of first starting out the running interview show, we ran from Central Park to the Gershwin Theater and she toured us around. And I remember one of the things that she said to me was how she was standby at the time and she was wearing, I forget which Elphaba it was, but she was wearing their costume and how special it was even like as standby to be able to wear the costume of this other incredible performer and like woman that like wore it before her. And I think the cool thing then about becoming the Elphaba and the Glinda and having these custom costumes made for you is like future generations of Glinda are going to wear those and be like, this is the costume that Allie wore.
Yeah. And it really does feel like when I talk about the spiritual like presence of theater, this is part of it. Like the whole energy that you bring, you're operating from this frequency. And it just, in my mind, it's like the costumes feel it. And then the people who wear the costumes will feel it. And I hope that if anyone wears my skirt in the future, whatever, I hope they feel like well-dressed and well-prepared and excited,
Yeah, and connected.
Good vibes.
Literally good vibes and connected to you in a way. So your Elphaba right now with you, the other lead is Lencia, and you guys are getting a lot of press about having incredible chemistry on stage.
Oh, yeah.
So what goes into making sure you have good chemistry? Because I feel like we hear this a lot in acting where they do literally like chemistry testing before casting people.
Yeah, at Wicked, they don't do that. I'm sure they have a whole process of like determining who they think will be well matched, but they don't have you audition together. So when I found out Lencia Cabrera was going to be playing Elphaba, I was so thrilled because she's also our first principal Black Elphaba that we've had in Wicked on this Broadway production. So that's major and overdue and very, very exciting. And when I found out she was still on tour with Hamilton, so I actually flew to San Francisco and saw her in Hamilton because I just wanted to like start our friendship off on a good, supportive, fun note. And I wanted to like see her shine and kind of like, I don't know, just start things as soon as I could. I was just so excited. And I was blown away by her voice, by her presence. I think that people who see her in the show are going to be really just like, whoa, that is a woman who just stands and sings the shit out of these songs. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
What is your pre-show ritual before Glinda gets into the bubble?
There's a lot that goes on before Glinda goes into the bubble. On our run, we talked about like the minutes leading up to it, but there's actually a lot more of the ritual that goes in. So I have a whole vocal warm-up that I do at home. My dog is my audience. He sits and watches me. He knows I'm about to leave, so he's stressed, but I sing anyway. And I have like a physical warm up that I do as well. But once I get to the theater, like I'm ready to go. I do my own makeup. Glinda on Broadway does her own makeup, which is great. And then I hang out with my dresser, Jess, who her whole job is to make sure that my job is as easy as it can be and that my costumes look amazing on me. So we love Jess. And I just kind of catch up with the company. And then as we get closer to showtime, I get amped up. I mean, I just like, we all run around like babbling little kids getting ready to do Wicked. And then, yeah, in those final minutes, you get into the bubble. I'm held in there by one clip and the bubble goes up. And when you're at the top waiting for the show to start, at the top of the show, you can look down and there's like a little gap between curtains where you can see the front row. And I can look down at the top of the show. I can see if there are any kids in the front row, if they're in their Glinda best. There are a lot of kids coming to the show in costume these days, which is so sweet. And it kind of puts me in a space where I can have a little moment of gratitude and like, I'll say a little prayer. I'll say a little prayer of like, I hope this is a protected and great show. I mentioned there's a little poster hanging right at eye level where the bubble stops at the top. And the Glinda from the previous contract will create a little break a leg
It's so
visual, which is very, very precious. And then the show starts. The lights go down and we kick it off and the bubbles turn on and it's all shot out of a cannon from there.
Lights, camera, action.
Yep. Yeah.
Because of the Wicked movie coming out, it's like a monumental time to be
Yes.
part of Wicked. You're also part of the 20th anniversary. So like you're hitting all these like iconic milestones for Wicked.
It's such an incredible time to be a part of the show. I feel so grateful and like the fun things that have gone on behind the scenes in the years that I've been here have been like as fun as doing the show itself. I've gotten to meet and hang out with both Kristen and Idina at the 20th anniversary. I've gotten to get dressed up for different premieres and different events to celebrate Wicked. And like, it's just been really special. And I'm really looking forward to what comes of this next year as we gear up for the second movie coming out. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I loved the first movie. I wept through the whole ending, and I'm really excited to see the next.
We talked about this a little bit before we sat down, but you are involved in a way in the movies.
A little teeny tiny way.
Tell us
yeah.
how you're involved.
So for the first film, part of what goes into making a movie musical involves creating demos of the music. So there was an era in like, I think the summer of 2022 where the company of the Wicked movie would like hire some of us from the Broadway company to come and sing some of the demos. So I got to sing some of the Glinda material for the demos that they then used in the production of the movie. I don't really know how it all played out or what they used and didn't use. And I think that there were a lot of company members in the Broadway company that had their vocals end up in the film. So fingers crossed, maybe there was still some hope for that for the second movie, because that would be so cool. And it's just fun to be able to be a part of it in any little way and to be able to just see it, how it gets made. The magic is made from behind the curtain, you know?
It's incredible. And I love knowing how much the movie pays so much kudos and respect to like you guys who are performing the show every
Yeah.
single night. But when you were watching it for the first time, what were you like so hyped to see about Ariana as Glinda? Like, was there one moment that you were like, she nailed that?
Oh, there was so many moments that I thought she nailed it. Even before it was announced that she was going to be in it, when it was like rumored of who could be playing Glinda, I really thought she would be spectacular because she just has this kind of energy that lends itself to such a rich character like this, and such a beautiful, like beloved character too. So I thought, I mean, I was thrilled seeing her popular. I thought it was hysterical. So many of her little like isms, like her little line deliveries, both her and Cynthia and Jonathan Bailey. It was nice to get like a close up on all of these little moments that a lot of them exist in the Broadway show, even if they're little ad libs or even if they're little like just tiny moments in the background. But with the film, you can really zoom in and like see these little moments clearly. And so I just got such a kick out of seeing how much they, fleshed out the whole story and how much they paid homage, how much they respected the original source material.
It was beautiful. And I mean, I feel like too, like as somebody that's like constantly performing it on stage, it was probably so cool for you to see how they imagined Oz and,
Oh my gosh.
and Shiz like.
Well, they just built this whole world. Like, I want to go to that theme park. I want to go
You need to.
visit. Like, I want to go. That, and we all do. We all want to go. It looks so fun.
I loved the Wicked movie itself, of course, but my favorite thing was Architectural Digest did this video. It's like a 12-minute long video on YouTube, and where they were interviewing the guy was in charge of production, and he went through. And obviously he has this incredible company of people that work with him, but he took us through like every single scene and every single set, from the entrance of like the tulips and how they had to plant like an insane amount of tulips somewhere in Europe, and they had to time everything perfectly with like when the tulips bloom, and then like what went into shiz and that entrance scene of them on the boats and having like, it was just so crazy.
I'll
And
have to watch that.
Oh my God, you have to watch
that. We just watched the trailer for the second film.
How is it?
It was incredible. Yeah. And some of us in the company at the Gershwin watched it together, and it got me so excited because you could even see like the visuals of the tornado being filmed in sepia, like in the same tone that it was filmed in the Wizard of Oz movie. That's incredible. I mean, I think that they have taken it so seriously and that they have clearly cared and loved this material so much. So I can't wait to see it.
What are you most excited about for this second movie? Like, what are you most excited to see?
Well, I'm really curious to see what is different from the Broadway show. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm curious to see how the characters transition and change. And I was saying earlier, I love scary things. And Act 2 of Wicked is like, it can be kind of dark. Actually, a lot of Wicked, depending on what it is that you're looking for, can be like very serious and heavy if you look for those themes woven underneath all of the bubbles and the glitter. So I'm excited to see these characters really come into their own, and I guess just pay the consequences of their actions in the first movie, or like reap the benefits, so to speak. And I think that there's probably going to be a lot of depth. Well, I hope. I'm excited for the depth that these characters are going to give us.
Yeah, no. Wait, I'm curious. Do you know this? Like, did they film part 1 and part 2 together? So it's already filmed?
Yeah, they did. They filmed it all together, and then I think they're doing some reshoots here and there. And I know that they're still doing a couple little musical different things. So the movie's not done yet, but I am not a spokesperson for the movie. I don't really know that much.
I was just wondering, so I'm like, I didn't know that. Okay, well, we talked about so much. Seriously, Allie, like, I just loved getting a peek behind like the curtain of you today, and like learning everything about you. It's seriously just so cool. There's still so much more to uncover with you, but I'm so excited to just like experience you as the Glinda this year on Wicked. What are you excited about? What's coming up for you? What do we got going on?
I mean, mostly right now, it is just these 8 shows a week. It's getting through this show. We have Broadway and Bryant Park coming up, and a couple of different like Broadway community events that are coming up with Wicked. But if anyone wants to come see the show, give me a shout out. I will blow you a bubble.